Hey VC, Jack here. Welcome to the channel, Vinyl Martini. Going to continue showing some records that I got on my European adventures. Before I went on this trip, I thought to myself, one of my goals was to maybe beef up some of my 80s collections because I've been really influenced by watching my UK buddies in the VC, Rob Walker, Mike, the Vinyl Policeman, and others. And I realized that there's a lot of the Manchester sound and the early 80s sounds that I just don't have in my collection. So uh, my wife and I went to Granada for 4 days, and two blocks south of us, two short blocks, was a record store called Grand Via Discos. So I picked up a few of these 80s classics. First is Susie and the Banshees. Join Hands, 1985 record. These are all blind buys. I don't really know anything. I don't recognize any of the hits on them. Very nice shape. It's on, it's simply on Polydor Records, the red Polydor label. Yeah, my first Susie record. Looking forward to giving this a listen. And next up is a band that I was pretty aware of, but didn't have any of the records, Simple Minds. And this is Sparkle in the Rain. Trying to get a date on here. I don't see anything, but I'm going to say around 1983 or 1984. And I was watching Hannah, the introvert, talking about this, and she says that this is their most their poppiest record, their most popular record. So that doesn't turn me off. So looking forward to giving Simple Minds a spin. My first Simple Minds record. And also, I've always been a big fan of Orchestral Maneuvers in the Dark, but just simply never had any of the records. This is called Dazzle Ships. It's a 1983 release. They released it after, I don't know the title of the record. It's Something in Architecture, which was their most popular record in 1982. They followed this up with a pretty experimental record. And this went down, this crashed and burned, I think. It was a commercial flop. And it almost drove the band into breaking up. So, but it's been recently re-examined and is being hailed now as a cult classic, and it's been resurrected, and I think it's been reissued. So, Dazzle Ships from Orchestral Maneuvers in the Dark. I showed a lot of records from the Barcelona International Record Fair last video I did. But I also visited a couple of shops in Barcelona and bought a few records. The first is a band called City Boy. They're a 70s band. They're a British band. And as luck would have it, Steve from All the World's a Stage I think he showed this record as one of his favorites from the 80s, I believe, or the 70s. I should look this up, but this is called The Day the Earth Caught Fire. I don't know, prog rock, pomp rock band from England. They released about 5 records. This is I think their third, one of their more popular ones. I never listened to it. Another blind buy. I just like the cover. It's on Vertigo as well, not the swirl, but the UFO label. So that caught my eye. Next up, a David Bowie record. This is a Spanish press in a series from Decca Records. It's called Historia della Musica Rock, and they cover most of the British bands. And this is David Bowie. It's not David Bowie's greatest hits or anything like that. It's actually David Bowie's singles that he recorded for Durham Records that didn't go anywhere before he did Space Oddity and this string of great records after that. Always looking to pick up David Bowie records that I don't have, and this has got the classic song, The Laughing Gnome, on it. None of these singles made a dent in the charts, but I'm sure there'll be an interesting listen, at least. David Bowie. Next up, I've got a 12-inch Lena Lovitch and Nina Hagen, and this the single is called Don't Kill. I bought a Lena Lovitch album about a year and a half ago, and I bought a Nina Hagen album about a year and a half. My first for both those artists, and they were pretty intriguing, so I've been on the lookout for things by them. 12-inch single that I picked up in Barcelona. I've been meaning to start my Billy Preston collection, and I just do not run into his 70s stuff in good condition, but I ran across this record. It's called Late at Night. It's an 80s record, 1981, probably a little more in the 80s vein, not the 70s vein, but you've got to start somewhere. So this is my first Billy Preston record. It was, I think it cost me €4. It's pretty cheap. It's in pretty good shape. So there we go with Billy Preston. And those are all my Spanish LPs. So now we're going to move on to the albums I picked up in the Netherlands. And I went to a record store in Amsterdam called Concerto. And it's a really big record store. Actually, it's 4 storefronts that they first rented. The first storefront that wasn't big enough, they rented the second one, and they've joined all these 4 storefronts together. So it's a fairly large store with a large basement. And I didn't get to check it all out, but I went to the cheapies. Of course, I went downstairs to the cheapies bins and picked up quite a few records. The first one is Lone Justice. Bought this because my buddy Mike from MGK Boston has shown this on a couple of his shows. They are a country rock band from LA. I think this was released in 1985. 1985, yes. It didn't do as well as it was all hyped up to be. This is their biggest selling record. They did a follow-up record and then they broke up. But this is, I listened to it the other night, and definitely well worth a listen. Mike, you're right. It's a pretty good record. The singer is fantastic. The female singer here, I don't have her name at the top of my head, but pretty good record. Next up, a band that I didn't have anything of, but I always knew about them. Steve Harley and Cockney Rebel, kind of a 70s glam outfit. Stuart Elliott on drums, Jim Cregan on electric and acoustic guitars, Duncan McKay on electric and grand pianos, George Ford on bass guitars, and Steve Harley doing vocals. Pretty good record. It would cost me, this is 5 for 20 euros, so 4-year record, in great shape. My first Cockney Rebel album. Getting back, talking about the 80s and getting into the 80s. Bow Wow Wow. This is their 1981 release, very controversial cover. I think this young lady was only 16 at the time this was photographed, so it was. I think it might have been banned by the BBC. I haven't listened to it yet, but some more 80s Bow Wow Wow. Next up, a band called Illusion, and I picked this up because for a very specific reason. I do threads and I follow contests, and sometimes you're asked to spell a word, or for example, there was one thread where you had to spell the city you're in. And every time I enter one of these contests, it's always asked. I always end up searching for albums or bands that start with the letter I. So this is Illusion, and it's actually members that were formerly in Renaissance, and that they basically reformed to almost be a parallel band to Renaissance. It was started by Keith Ralph, who used to be in the Yardbirds, but before this album could be recorded, he passed away, and his wife, Jane Ralph, is the vocalist. John Hawkins on here. Jim McCarty from Yardbirds plays on this. So this is very, very similar to a Renaissance album. And again, €4, nice shape, and it is it's a Dutch pressing. So I'll be interested in hearing this. Total blind buy. I just bought it because it looked intriguing. This is called the Johnny Young Band Young's Brew, and it's got a nice bottle of beer on the cover. But what really got me was the picture of the band on the back there. They don't look like they're art rockers at all. Looks like they are kind of a British blues rock band. I couldn't find any information on this band at all whatsoever. But it's on Transatlantic Records, 1975 release. I'll let you know in future shows if it's worth all the noise. Next up, Gary Brooker, pianist and singer for Procol Harum, a solo record. I bought Gary Brooker album about 2 years ago, a solo record, and I really enjoyed it. Another blind buy. I don't know anything about this. This is a 1989 release on Phonogram. It's called Echoes in the Night. Gary Brooker has got a great voice. And it's produced by Matthew Fisher. Comes with a nice insert, nice sleeve. Echoes in the Night, Gary Brooker. And another Gary Brooker album. It's called No More Fear of Flying. This is 19... You know, I really hate record companies because the dates, they should be bigger on the back for us older people. I can't find the date on this. But this one is called No More Fear of Flying, like I said. And this was produced by George Martin. So probably recorded in Air Studios. Intriguing cover, Gary Brooker. I'm a big Procol Harum fan, and I love his voice. So I will probably pick up anything I see of his. This is a band I've never heard of. It's still sealed. I bought it. Again, it was €4. And the band is called Fleet Burner. It's a double record. Hasn't been opened. I don't know if that's ominous or not for €4, but I'm willing to give it a go. It's nice and fresh looking. Never heard of them. Again, I will report back to you if that's a hit or a miss. And speaking of Procol Harum and Gary Brooker, this is Gary Fisher's, I think it's his second solo album called I'll Be There. Matthew Fisher, of course, was the organ player for Procol Harum, and he wrote some of the lyrics. He was in a long dispute with Procol Harum over the credits to A Whiter Shade of Pale, which he eventually won his lawsuit and got a settlement out of it anyways, and some public recognition. I bought his first one. I can't remember the title of Fisher's first solo album, but it was quite good. He's got a voice that's not as strong as Brooker's, of course, but it was interesting. So looking forward to giving this a listen. Again, it was €5. And lastly, is that true? Nope, I got some more here. The last record I'm going to show you from Concerto Records is a record that I have has been missing from my collection, and I needed to add it to my collection. This is Ry Cooder's third record called Boomer's Story. The cover is not in great condition, but it was €5. The record is fantastic. It's on a reprise, a Dutch reprise pressing, and this is a great record. I don't think I have to talk about Ry Cooder, and such a fantastic guitar player and a great singer as well. In my opinion, he's a great singer. I know a lot of people think he's so good, except he's a shitty singer. Well, anyways, I like shitty singers, I guess. Ry Cooder. And lastly, we have another group of records. Oh, and I never got the name of this record store I got these records from. But here was in the R&B section, a band that I've never heard of called Barbara Blake and the Unique. This was Barbara's only record that she released, and she released it in 1975. It's a R&B record, supposed to be a classic. It was only €5, but the cover reflects that. Got some water damage, but it's on 20th Century. The record's in fantastic shape. It's in mint shape, so needs a little bit of a wash. But I'm looking forward to listening to this. Barbara Blake and the Unique. I think she was from Detroit, actually. Her only record that she released. And I am a Sean Phillips fan. I picked this up for cheap, I think €5. His 1978 release, Transcendence. Sean Phillips is, I don't think he gets enough credit in the vinyl community, to tell you the truth. He lived in Italy for a while. Right now, he is a paramedic working in somewhere in Texas, either Dallas or Houston, I think. So he changed careers, and I think he still plays a little bit of music, but he's not a musician anymore. John Phillips. My first record from these guys, the Walker Brothers. So the Walker Brothers weren't brothers at all. They were Americans who did most of their recording in Britain, and they've got most of their fame in Britain, I think. I don't think they are really appreciated this side of the water, but the big hit was The Sun Ain't Gonna Shine Anymore. This is a comp on Fontana, the special series. Great shape, very cheap. I'm very happy to have my first Walker Brothers album. And the last record I'm going to show is another Matthew Fisher record. This is a it does not give me the date. I don't think they do that. I'll try to find the date for you. 1981. Matthew Fisher. It's called Strange Days. So another Matthew Fisher record, another addition to my Procol Harum collection. So I'm very happy to have found this for €5, I think it was. So there you have it. I still have lots more records to show, but I am running at almost 17 minutes right now. So I'm going to cut it off from there. Thank you to all my viewers from my last video. My Barcelona Record Fair video did quite well. I got a lot more views than I normally get, so I appreciate that. If you like what I show or you like the video, give me a like. Always looking for new subscribers. Till the next time, records from Amsterdam strictly, I think. No, maybe another city in there as well. We'll see. Anyways, cheers. See you guys later.